newest member of the Indianapolis Colts, Jacob Eason. Thanks for joining the show, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, so what has the last 48 hours been like for you? Because we've seen your face and your girlfriend's face and your family's face all over the television.
Yeah, I mean it's been a whirlwind. I was sitting there yesterday, expecting to get called. Kind of kept winding down, and it wasn't happening. So, I went to bed. I slept on it. I'm like, hey, another big day tomorrow. It's kind of the same way I went with the first round. So, a little bit of frustration, a little bit of this and that, but you can use that as motivation, a chip on the shoulder, whatever you want to call it. And I'm just really fortunate to have been picked up in the situation that I am. I don't think there was a better situation out there for me. I get to go in and learn from two great quarterbacks in Phillip and Jacoby, and I'm very very fortunate for that. I'm gonna be in a great spot with a great organization, and I'm just excited and hungry to get to work.
Yeah, so what's it like? I mean, I talked to quarterback coaches in the league about you heading into the draft, and some were like totally first round lock, and then obviously that didn't happen. So for you, now that you've been drafted, is it, I wish I went top 15 where maybe I'd play right now? Or do you step back and say, actually, I've got a kind of ideal scenario?
Yeah, I definitely did get an ideal scenario. I'd love to go first round. Yeah, I'd love to go second, third, whatever. But fourth round to the Indianapolis Colts, it's a dream come true. If I went in the seventh round or sixth round, I'd be happy. I don't even think there is 7 rounds. But this whole thing, it's been a lot of hard work. My path has always been, this way, that way, transferred back and two different schools and all that stuff. And so, it's only right that I would, dwindle down to the fourth round. And, I'm very, very thankful, very humble. I was just so excited. A lot of emotions kind of flooding in. I'm here with my family. And, my old man's, super excited, and my girlfriend and my parents. And it's just so awesome to be here with those people and see my name on the big screen. And it don't matter what round it's in. I'm just super fortunate and super excited.
Yeah, I can't help it. I can think back to high school, meeting you when you were 16 with the Elite 11 and getting to know your dad a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Curious what type of guidance he's given you, because now this is like the third major, let's say, change that you've gone through, right? Georgia, then UW, and here we are. And wonder what those conversations were like.
He's been there for me since as long as I can remember. The reason I picked up a football was because of him. He was my hero, and I wanted to go play football and be a receiver at Notre Dame, and just like he was. And as I grew up and I figured out I had a strong arm, he was the one working the mechanics. He was the one, with the mental aspect of it, being a tough player, tough physical guy. Not showing emotion, being a leader, and he's always been in my corner. He's always been my number one supporter, and it's been so awesome. That's why when my name got called, that hug, that embracing him and my mom, and it was just so special. It's one of those things I'll never forget, because it's accumulation of just a lifelong 20 years of just sacrifice, hard work, sweat, blood, tears, all the above, and to graduate high school as the number one guy and go and get hurt and transfer, and then end up back at Washington in front of the home base, and now I'm in a great spot in Indianapolis. It's just you can never predict it. And, I'm just super fortunate to be in the position that I am and have great folks around here with me. And I'm just super excited and happy.
Yeah, we're so excited for you. If you go back to the time when you were the number one prospect in the nation in high school football,
yeah,
and if you knew what your path was going to be, what would you have told yourself back then?
I think I'd be telling myself the same thing I've been telling myself, since it's all been happening. It's control what you can control, and it's always just go compete. It didn't matter. I was a freshman at Georgia. I was competing, and I was in a tough spot where I had to go and compete with an older guy, and in that situation, I was able to go out and win that job. And the next year I got hurt, and the thing was, control what you can control. Football is an injury related game, and it got taken away from me, but that didn't stop me from competing and trying to get better. And, my goal has always been to declare for the draft and get selected by a team. And, that's finally happened. There's a lot of work left to be done and a lot left to prove. But, up to this point, it's controlling what I can control. I couldn't control getting drafted in the first 3 rounds, and it happened to me in the fourth. And for that, I'm super excited and just honored to, that the Colts believed in me and wanted me to be their guy, and it feels great. So I'm just, ready for this next chapter and this next challenge, and ready to get down to Indianapolis.
So did you think that this would be a place that you could land? And if so, what was the call like with Frank Reich?
Yeah, Indianapolis, was the team that I felt I had the best connection with. I talked to the head coach. I've talked to their GM. I've talked to, quarterback coach, OC, O-line coach even. I think I've had more calls with them than any other team. And we developed a great relationship because Coach Reich would always – he would start it off by asking, personal questions, whether it was family and, how I was raised, my college experience. And then he'd get into some psychological testing things. And then we'd get into, he'd teach me a little snippet of protections, or he'd teach me – a concept, and we'd watch my film and kind of plug it back and forth to see how it would compare. And so, we developed a really good, relationship in that sense. So I'm super excited to get down there and get in person with him, because I know it's going to go great. So, and this situation is perfect for me, I think. So I'm just, very fortunate to have been picked up and ready to go.
I think it's so unique, that you're drafted and you get to play behind someone that you grew up watching.
Mm-hmm.
I played against Phillip Rivers, which shows how old both of us are.
Right.
But what do you think this is going to be like to sit in a room with a Hall of Famer?
That's something I've been thinking about, and it's hard to put it into words, because like you mentioned, like I grew up like Phillip Rivers is a future Hall quarterback, and I'm watching him on Sundays as like a 7-year-old. So now I'm going to be in the same room and learn from him. It's going to take a lot of growing up and maturity on my end to go in there and really, figure out how this professional quarterback does it. So I think that'll be an awesome experience for me, really go in and, similar to the way when I came to Washington, I was able to learn a lot from Jake. Obviously this is a different situation and scenario with Phillip Rivers, but, I think it'll be tremendous for me. I think I'm going to be able to go in there and, get a great relationship with him and learn from him. I know, from what I've been told, he's an awesome dude and an awesome character on the field and in the locker room. So I'm very excited to get down there and meet him and get rolling. So, overall, just very fortunate, very, very excited and very happy.
We want to make sure we bring you back on our show after like a season, because I want some tips on how he talks trash, because Phillip Rivers seems to do it incredibly well.
I've seen those mic'd up Phillip Rivers moments. Those are pretty funny.
Speaking of relationships, we had Jared Goff on our podcast earlier this week, and he talked a lot about you and working out with you. What have you learned from him entering this next phase of your career?
That's Jared. I drew a lot of comparisons to Jared and myself when Jared was going through this situation. Kind of the big, tall, skinny guy, rocking arm. Personality, some similar traits here and there with a lot of guys tagged him with the laid back kind of thing. But so it's cool to kind of get like a piece of mind from his perspective on how he changed the narrative in that way. Now he goes on to go play in the Super Bowl and he's winning a lot of games with the Rams. So, a lot of that was just me asking questions and, getting information from a person who had gone through the same situation. That's one of the resources I was able to have down here in California, which was awesome for me. And I'm very thankful, looking forward to going in and competing against Jared one day. So, the resources I had and throughout this whole process has been awesome. And, I'm very fortunate for that.
Yeah. I love the comparison of you two, because you played in the same system. He played it in college. You played in Tony Franklin's in high school.
Yep.
And now you're making the transition to the pros. With that being said, before we let you go, you grew up going to games at Husky Stadium.
Yeah.
Your career in a roundabout way ended up at Husky Stadium. I can remember the last throw you made and so many in between. What do you want to tell the Husky faithful as you transition to the league?
It was a dream come true. The state of Washington holds a special place in my heart. It's my home state. Lake Stevens, my hometown, and the University of Washington was right in my backyard. So, it was a dream come true going out there and playing for the Dogs. I always tell people this last season was a season where I was able to come out of my shell and whenever we scored a big play or, the fans go crazy, I was able to celebrate. It's my home. It's where I grew up. So it was really special for me to go out there and play in front of that devoted fan base and go get some wins. So, I love the Huskies. I'll always be a Husky, and I'm super proud of that and super proud of those guys that are getting drafted today and still waiting to get their names called. I know Nick just got picked up by the Browns. I called him a second ago and congratulated him. That's a big time get for the Browns because he's a hell of a player. And, it's just been super awesome. Coach Peterson, Jimmy Lake, Bush Hamden, the whole staff, and even, Coach Saha in the weight room. So many guys in that building that were so awesome for me in my transition from Georgia that, ultimately got me to this stage. So, very fortunate to have learned from those guys and been a part of that great organization. And, it's awesome to always be a dog.